If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video.
All good?
Yeah, that's live.
Happy days, let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be listening to another episode of the Non-League Nosh. I am James, and as always, I'm joined by my colleague and good friend Adam. How are you doing this evening, sir? You well?
Yeah, not too bad at all. It's been poor weather. First time I think we've spoken, we've actually had bad weather.
I know, it's one of those times we're actually grateful to be indoors.
Well, this is it, but we're coming out the other side even when the weather's bad as well, so who knew?
Exactly, yeah. But Adam, unbelievable that we've managed to pull this guest in. I'm so excited to be able to welcome to the Non-League Nosh. We've had ex-professionals, we have had current or ex-professionals who are still plying their trade in non-league. We have had managers, we've had groundhoppers on, but now we have finally got somebody who is in the game currently at the moment. Joe Jacobson of Wycombe Wanderers. Joe, how are you, sir? You well?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you guys?
Not bad.
Yeah, very good. Welcome aboard the Non-League Nosh train.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
hope you enjoy your time on the show. Thank you very much for coming on. Before we kind of get into the whole, deals and ins and outs, etc., just kind of give us a brief overview at the moment. How are you finding things at the moment during the lockdown? We've spoken, as I said, to ex-pros and how they think they would be handling, but it's going to be interesting to get your perspective. How are you finding things?
A little bit strange, but I'm coping. There's a lot of people in worse positions than I'm in. I'm still at home. I'm fortunate the club are looking after us financially, so that's all okay. And just trying to stay busy, trying to think of things to do. My wife's here; she's working from home, normal hours, so she's staying busy all day, and I kind of just have to float around and not make too much noise around the house.
Stay out of her way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it works both ways. But I'm just trying to keep busy. I've got stuff that I'm looking to do for after football, so I'm trying to do some studying for that, which is it's been kind of a blessing for me really to get some time to do that. And yeah, like I said, just exercising. We've kind of got little plans from the club to keep fit and keep on it really. So yeah, that's kind of basically it.
Are they still doing like a diet plan for you as well as exercise plans, so you keeping in shape, ready for when you do have to go back?
We haven't been given a diet plan, but we kind of know what we can do and get away with and things like that. To have a beer on a Friday night now is like, whoa, I've never done this before. But during all quiz nights and things like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I can have one now. I don't have a game for however long it's going to be. So little things like that is fine. But we know as pros that we've got to kind of look after ourselves. I'm probably weirdly in better shape now than I was during the season, just because all I'm focusing on is fitness and strength and conditioning at the minute, without kind of resting after games for a couple of days and getting ready for that. So it's probably helped me in some ways as well.
Definitely. Well, we'll get more into what you're kind of doing at the moment and how, what your thoughts on it, etc. But I don't know if you've done any research before coming on and what we do on the show, but we always start off, Adam, don't we, with a section where we kind of get to know the person that's on the other end, just to kind of loosen you up a little bit and just for our audience can find out a little bit more about you. So we've got set questions, which we always go through, and we want to find out what kind of a man you are. All right, so the first one is pub, bar, or club?
Pub.
Good man.
Pub, man. Yeah. I'm getting too old for the rest of them.
Join the majority.
Chinese or Indian?
Chinese.
Good call. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. I reckon I drink 1 cup of tea a year, so coffee for me, yeah.
Good man. I'm currently sat here with a cup of coffee myself. Favorite biscuit to dunk? This one always causes controversy.
Ooh, I just like a chocolate hobnob.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of a hobnob, chocolate hobnob. So Dunkin', not Dunkin', yeah.
Do you know what? That's surprisingly popular, isn't it, Adam? Probably
I-
about 50%, to say.
There isn't another right answer, James.
Ginger nut biscuits.
No,
Ginger nut biscuits is the right answer.
You were in support of
not
a
for
malted
me.
milk the other week. It's just so wrong.
You can't go wrong with a malted milk. You can't.
Rank.
Instagram or Twitter?
During this time, they both really annoyed me, actually, Instagram and Twitter. I try to stay up as much as I can, but it's difficult when you've got so much time. I'd say Instagram.
Interesting. Favorite music genre?
I'd say R&B.
Nice.
Going back, yeah.
Good call. Favorite box set? Do you have one?
Not necessarily a favorite one. I've watched quite a few. I love the Breaking Bad one just because it just went on and on and on. So if I'd have started that in this lockdown, it probably would have been a good idea. Actually, I'd say that's my favorite one.
What are you watching at the moment? You kind of got one that you're keeping yourself occupied with?
The latest one we started watching is Spy on Netflix. Just got recommended to us about a spy from don't even know when it was, 30s or 40s or something, going into, Right. I've only just started watching it, so I'm not sending it too well, but yeah, it started off pretty well.
But the last three guests we've had have come up with shows that we haven't heard of and don't know what they are. So we'll just scribble them on a list and we'll just try them out as we go along, to be honest.
Exactly.
The one I've started watching actually is the Save the Last Dance, the NBA one, which is pretty cool.
Yes, I've seen that come up on the recommended actually when I've been going on there, because I've started I don't know why we started watching it, but Friday night dinner I finally got into that. But yeah, I see that always on there. Favorite film?
It's like a classic, like Shawshank. I think you can just watch over and over again.
Yeah, we've had that. To be fair, cats or dogs?
Dogs all day.
Good call. Sky or BT?
Sky.
Yeah. Other than football, favorite sport?
I'd say tennis or cricket.
Ooh.
I'm probably saying cricket now more, actually. It used to be tennis, but now I'm saying cricket.
Yeah. I suppose with Sky, it's up until recent events, it's always been on, hasn't it? There's always some form of cricket on, no matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, a couple of other questions, because we always ask these for the ex-pros and the pros that come on. Favorite player growing up?
Ryan Giggs, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being Welsh, played similar position to him when I was younger, and he was the guy to look up to. Yeah,
definitely. Best player that you've seen live?
I'd say Ronaldinho. I think Brazil played Wales in a friendly in Cardiff. I can't remember the time of the year, and I think they brought all their big guns down. I remember watching Ronaldinho. It was a surreal experience. Yeah,
I always remember watching him on just the Champions League ITV back in the day. I would have loved to have seen him live. I don't think there's many players like him around now. Obviously, I know Ronaldo and Messi have their own similar qualities, but just what he could do. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, I think as much as you had your Ronaldinho and Ronaldo at the time, I honestly think the now Ronaldo, CR7 or whatever, and Messi, I honestly think they're ahead of them too.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I think the game has moved on and they play quicker and more. I don't know. I just think that they play a higher level of game.
I think they're just relentless. They've done it for so many years. The Ronaldinhos and Zidane's, they were good, and Kaká, they were good for a set amount of years. Zidane probably longer, but Ronaldinho and Kaká, I think just for 3 or 4 years were unbelievable. But longevity, you can't look past what the two are doing at the minute.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good shout. Let's get to know the dressing room that you're in at the moment. Best dresser.
Ooh, we haven't got many of them.
Brilliant.
A lot of the boys think they've got a bit. I'd go for. I like Anthony Stewart comes in with some stuff that I couldn't pull off, but he's he's probably up there for me.
Worst dresser.
Could be a lot of them. I'd go for Scott Cashgett. He's someone who, as long as it's got like a label on it or some sort of design thing, could be anything, could be men's, women's, could be whatever. He found it, just anything. He comes in, but then he starts doing it then more and more just to prove a point to people that you can wear this ridiculous clothes, and he gets a lot of stick for it, but he doesn't care. He keeps coming with it, so fair play to him.
Brilliant. Who sorts the music out in the changing room?
Josh Parker. He puts it on before a game. In the training ground, the main hub of the training ground is the gym area, and he's always in early putting his music on, and it's pretty good, to be fair. So there's a few things like before a game. I think towards the start of the season, they put on this really quick dance, rap music, whatever it was, and some of the boys just getting up dancing. Not seen this before, but and then we won, so it carried on for a while. This music going on before the game, which was pretty cool, and it was something that anyone who came in as a bystander into the change room, have a look at what was going on, they were just like, "What's going on here?" But we were winning, so it didn't really matter.
There you go. So on the back of that, best dancer at the club.
Oh, do you know what? We've got quite a few that like to get involved. Bayo, big man, loves getting involved with dancing. There was a couple of months ago now, the boys they actually recorded a little dance routine. They were there all afternoon in the gym after training, just perfecting this. There's 5 or 6 of them, and it was all right. I couldn't get involved, that's for sure. But Bayo, I'm saying Bayo does it on the pitch when he scores. I'm saying him for a big guy. He's got a little twinkle toe, so yeah, he's all
right. Best trainer at the club.
I'd say Matt Bloomfield. There's a reason why he's been there 15, 16 years, still in the game, playing every week at 36. He's as fit as anyone. He never missed a day's training unless he's given extra days off from the gaffer. But when he's out there, he's running around more than anyone. He's desperate to look at the running figures and the stats after training, and just to make sure that he's up there. Otherwise, you'd be disappointed and you'll want to do more.
Right. Worst trainer. It's time to dig someone out.
Ooh. Who would I say worst trainer? Well, the big man Bayo doesn't come out very often, so he's very rarely out there unless you're doing some sort of team prep or shape. You don't tend to see him until later on in the week. Apart from that, I would say, I'm trying to think I'd say Scott Cashgett sometimes, who just wants to play like the ball's his own and he can only just dribble around everyone, but then comes to a match day and he turns it on and he's unbelievable. So some players can just get away with it. Yeah,
definitely. And the final one before we move on, best moment at the club to date?
Oh, promotion, without doubt. A couple of years ago, we set out this plan of when I first signed the club, they just stayed up on the last day of the season and they had this plan to get promotion in 3 or 4 years' time. And the 4th year, we managed to do it away at Chesterfield, I think second to last game, and the joy and adulation after that. And I've had a couple of promotions, fortunately, in my time, but they are the best, hands down, the best times you'll ever have in football. So that was a special moment.
How long are you sort of riding that wave for after you get promoted? Like, if you watch a team win a cup or something as a fan, it's mental enough anyway. Like, as a player, how long are you on the crest of that wave for?
We were on it up until the start of the next season, just because you have that few days afterwards where you're just, the next couple of days, I think we ended up picking our cars back up from the training ground about 3 days later. We just stayed in Wycombe and just whatever happened. And that week, I think it was just all fun and games. We played the last game and there was a huge celebration at our ground friends and family there. We had another trophy celebration. Again, we had the day after, I think we had the Player of the Year award, so that carried on. Then we went away with the team to Marbella for a few days, so it carries on again. Wow. And before you know it, you're back with the boys, and you're so excited for the new season in a different league, playing against some incredible teams in big stadiums. So yeah, it doesn't stop until you get beat in that first game, and then you're like, oh, this is what it's all about.
Back to reality, yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed those questions. Adam,
good work, James.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. Some great answers in there, to be honest. Absolutely superb stuff. Right. Let's move on to what is currently going on. We've briefly talked about it. With the current situation with football at the moment, it's very, very tricky to really understand how the potential season can finish and what's kind of going on at the moment. Obviously, for myself and Adam, we are heavily invested in non-league football, but we constantly refer to it on the show, don't we, Adam, with the fact that the Premier League and the EFL is still to make a decision on what is going on. For you as a player, how have you found that interim period from the day where they said, right, it's going to be postponed for the time being until, to where you're at the moment? How are you coping with that as things stand?
It's difficult because you get this type of break in the summer where you get 6-8 weeks off, but you have like an end goal, a date, something to work towards, like, you know where your fitness needs to be at, where you can book holidays or you can do things with your family and things like that. But this has been so up in the air that you can't. At the start, we were all given a fitness plan to be like, right, these days I want you to do this, this, and this. But as time's gone on, we've had calls on the manager to say, I want you to chill off a little bit and just relax and not kind of be on it. And then you're a little bit in limbo of how much you need to do because there's no date still set for anything to happen. So, and until that happens, I don't think anyone can kind of really not have an opinion, but make any decisions. And it seems like the Premier League, the EFL, non-league are all different. They've all got their own kind of agendas probably of what they want to happen, but also clubs do. So there'd be 10 clubs in our league, for instance, who want something so that they can get promoted. There'll be 10 clubs who don't care that the season ends because they've got nothing to play for, and you've got the ones at the bottom who want it to be null and void so they survive. So it's really difficult to, whatever happens, I don't think you're going to please everyone. And I don't know. I think once the Premier League, make the decision on whether they can play, I think then it will filter down and see what happens. But I spoke to the manager today, and he called me and we spoke about it, but nothing. He's still up in limbo, doesn't know. We've got a player, Matt Bloomfield, who's on that elite board on the PFA now, that 6-member thing. And again, he's saying there's nothing's been decided anywhere. So it's difficult, really difficult situation.
Yeah. I mean, how often are you speaking to Gareth Ainsworth at the moment? Is it kind of like a weekly thing, or is it just a case of whenever you want to find out something, you just kind of pick up the phone and ask if there has been any update?
No, he calls every week. He makes a he makes a point of calling, I think, every player every week just to see how things are. It doesn't really. Today we had a chat about football, but normally it's just how you're getting on, what you've been up to, keep ticking over, and then we'll talk about something that's going on, or the missus or his family, and it's just to kind of keep in the loop. He's like that. He's when during the season he'll always be asking not just about football, but he wants to know how your family's doing, how your life is outside of football. So he's very good at that. And we speak a lot, and obviously the WhatsApp group with the boys is always going off, and they're doing some good things at Wycombe where they're every couple of days they're doing like a Wycombe Live thing where they get 5 or 6 of the players online and the fans can interact. So it keeps the boys talking to each other and keeps the fans interactive with the players. So I think that's gone down really well as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think mentally that's probably really important, that it isn't every interaction you have with your manager is almost work. There's the social, and it's being treated like a human again, and making sure that football as a community is healthy as well as a sport. And hearing things like that are so positive because it takes away the whole thing, that it's just, it shows us a more human side to it as well, rather than just the focus on getting back to playing, because we don't know when that is, and it might not be for some time. So it's important that people look after themselves mentally as well as physically. Like again, you said like sometimes you're being told just to have, ease off, take a day off or whatever. Like that's really interesting to hear, and that's probably not what I was expecting. Like in my head, I was thinking that you'd probably be told to work as hard as you physically can and be in the absolute optimum shape, because people would be pretty confident that they want to get them last 10 games or so knocked out the park as quick as possible. Yeah. And you've got to be able to play 3 games a week if needed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's very much like that. There's the only football thing we're doing is every day one player gets a video sent into our WhatsApp group of all his best clips from the season. So it's something that it makes him feel really good, big. The boys are all looking at it, giving him all the adulation that they deserve. And it's really nice to get you thinking, again, speaking to the gaff today, he was like, I want to get all the boys, like, mentally, they're like buzzing about themselves. They haven't got any thoughts about what's gone on. It's just all they're seeing is positive stuff from them. So that when they come back, they're desperate to just get on the pitch and play football and enjoy it and have fun. And that's always what he prides himself on.
Yeah. Are you kind of going on, touching on what Adam's saying there, in terms of like the mental aspect of it? How are you finding not being actually in the changing room on a regular basis, not having the training on day in and day out? Has that been difficult, or have you kind of got used to it as the weeks have kind of gone on?
I think naturally you get more used to it. I think like a lot of the players who I speak to will say is they just miss going in and having that interaction with the other players, and you've got that dressing room banter and camaraderie that everyone's got, and you can't have that at home with your wife. It just doesn't work. So just seeing everyone, and that's why the WhatsApp group's so good. That most days there's debates going on, there's chats going on, nothing to do with football mainly, just to do with what's going on in the world. And we've got quite a few interesting characters who've got strong opinions on things, and it's good just to get everyone interacting and making sure no one kind of forgets and the whole squad gets involved. There's not one player who doesn't ever have their say, and it's pretty cool to have that environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear, because one of the things, looking from an outside, I mean, I'm a Norwich fan, Adam is an Ipswich fan. We're both heavily invested within non-league football, but one of the things that Wycombe is known for is the team spirit and the closeness of the group. So it's very interesting to hear that is still going on outside of a training ground, and it's not just been, right, you're all on your own individual workouts, and that's it. There's no, and no outside communications. So it's really interesting to hear that side of things is still happening. But from a fitness perspective, let's kind of move on to that now. How are you kind of finding things at the moment from that? Let's just kind of talk very briefly on that. I know we said right at the beginning there was some plans put in place to begin with, but then that's kind of eased off now. How are you kind of doing stuff from home?
I'm spending money on Amazon on things that I never thought I would. That's one thing I'm doing. Somehow we've got a cupboard now with medicine, whatever going on, that I just see something online. I'm like, that could help doing stuff. So I've got all this stuff, right. And luckily my wife's quite into her fitness as well. So we do like home workouts together most days. She actually went out did a 5K at 7 o'clock this morning, but I wasn't getting involved with that. But luckily we've got a huge park next to us, so we go out running together, or I'll go and I've got a couple of balls with me. I'll go and take my boots down there, find a little patch, and kind of just do my own thing. It's difficult. Obviously, you prefer to be with people, but it's just one of those things. You know what you have to do. Kind of, a session to get so much distance into your legs that you need. Yeah. And you just kind of got to get on with it. There's no two ways about it, really. There's no point being at home. And in these times, it's quite nice to get out in the fresh air and see trees and see grass and see whatever. So it's exactly. And it's something that I hope that you go out, and it seems like everyone's turned into a runner or a walker, but you kind of hope that carries on afterwards to keep everyone kind of fitter and healthier, and it helps with your mental state as well, just to kind of get out of the house and focus on fitness for an hour or whatever it is. So it's good.
Adam, we really need to get on that, mate. Really do.
You think I'm going to run 5K? You got another thing coming?
I hate running, and you ask any of the players, and and my distances in games are lower. I know it's positional wise, but
Yeah.
I always say like the first 2K is up in your head, whereas I'll let the runners run and things like that. But for some reason, I've been enjoying going on runs. I've been doing 10Ks, 12Ks, just to kind of, don't know, just to get my mind on it. And it's made me probably fitter now doing all this that I wouldn't have necessarily thought.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the current status of football at the moment. Again, we touched upon it. Non-league has been stopped. There's no, we've had the decision made. We have, certain clubs have sent in appeals to get that try and reinstated, but that has not been successful. From an outside looking in, from a non-league perspective, first of all, let's talk about that. What do you make of a decision to null and void the season? Do you think they've kind of made the right decision, or do you think they possibly should have waited to see, as you say, maybe what the Premier League decides and then take it from there?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that they made that decision. First of all, when they did it, it was so early on. Yeah. So they couldn't have known. They could have waited. Even if they made it now, I still think it's early, but I get that, non-league's a little bit different to the Football League with contracts and things like that. Yeah. For me, there has to be relegation and promotion. 75-80% of the league's been done. I think there has to be. I think there's no one that could complain who looks at the league table now and looks at people down the bottom or people at the top and says they don't deserve to be there and they don't deserve to get relegated or promoted. So I know that's probably me having my selfish hat on because of the position that Wycombe are in at the minute, but I just think that it makes it worthwhile whatever's happened. You don't want to come out the end of this and go, well, that was all for nothing. You kind of want to go, right, we went through that and now we've got this to show for it. We managed to get this promotion. Yes, some people might be promoted not because they 100% deserve to be, but for every one of them, there's probably 10 clubs that do deserve to get promoted and probably should do because of it.
We've mentioned it before in here. There's 2 clubs in the country that have actually mathematically achieved promotion. One of them being Jersey Bulls. That they actually haven't lost all season, which is utterly like their record's insane. I think they've literally won every single game, and I don't understand how you can take that achievement away from a team when it's mathematically secured. There is no other option, like that they would have been going up.
Well, it's one of those that, if they make that decision for that league, you then have to make that decision for every league at non-league level. Every, whatever league that they're in, whatever status they're at, you then have to then say, right, everyone else at that level, those rules apply as well. And if you're then turning around and saying, well, actually, the leagues above, that can't happen, and the leagues below that can't happen, it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it?
It's difficult because I think what's really, really clear is that they want to focus on next season being okay. Like that seems really clear, like from how early they've called it off and everything. But I find it really difficult. Like now I'm looking at other things. Like I think France today, Ligue 1 got void effectively. Like more and more leagues are starting to fall. How do we know when we're going to be okay to go ahead again? And I think that with that in mind, I think that the FA will probably have to look at a broader scale and maybe take note of what other organisations have done, and they'll see that like Italy can come through the other side of it. Like,
it's interesting because obviously I know certain leagues are saying, well, that's it. I mean, for example, Holland, they basically said, it doesn't matter. There aren't going to be any relegations. There's not going to be any title deciders. That's it. The season's done. France have said the season's finished, but yet PSG have won the title. It's and yet we're still in a situation in this country where the Premier League and the EFL are undecided, and we're still sitting around and waiting for you as a player. That must be, well, how do you mentally cope with that? It must be very frustrating.
It's difficult, like you said, but for us, we've got a really added interest in it because if it's done on points per game, then we then go up to third. And then if there's 3 teams that get promoted, do we then become the third team? So there's loads of little things in it. There's obviously a lot of teams in the playoffs who want the season to continue because they wouldn't get promoted if it stops.
Yeah.
So it's, who makes this decision? I don't know. I don't know whether they can postpone it for a couple of months and come back and try and finish it again. But who's to say that next season is going to start on time, even if you null and void it now? So for me, I would say give this season as much time as possible, even if next season starts in October, November, and next season finishes a bit later. There's, as many years as you want in the future to kind of stagger that back a little bit. And again, there's plenty of midweeks. I know people complain about X number of games and don't want to overburn and things like that, but the whole world's going to be in the same situation. So it's not like one team or one country gets any beneficial from it that others won't. So I think try and play it as long as possible. I get the contract situation is a bit difficult and that needs to be sorted out. But surely there's enough money in football to sort out contracts for an extra month or two on a handful of players in the lower leagues.
I mean, one of the things that has been sort of suggested is that they are trying to look at the beginning of June, maybe like the 5th or 6th of June for a potential return date for the EFL. Have you heard anything about that? Do you know if those kind of rumours are true, or is that just kind of papers just trying to sell a date just to kind of appease fans?
Yeah, I don't think we've not heard that. I think there was a date that flew around a couple of weeks ago about the 16th of May. I think is still, that's the earliest if it does happen. And if I think there's a big meeting next week with the government to decide, the next stages of the lockdown plans and things like that. Yeah. And if there's any leeway, I think a couple of clubs have already opened their training ground to let players go in and train. I don't know how that works, and behind closed doors, are they doing extra than what they should be doing? Who knows? But I think as soon as any club I think gets given the green light, they will do. And if they're allowing teams to train, surely they're allowing teams to train for a reason to get the season started. They must have something in their mind. If they don't, then I think there has to be a date where there must be a date where eventually they say either no or yes. But for me, they can't just null and void seasons everywhere. If they do it in leagues, in the Championship, Leagues 1 and 2, and the Premiership gets awarded the title to Liverpool, who 100% deserve to win the Premier League, then they have to do the same. Whatever rule they set, they have to do the same throughout for me.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things I was going to ask off the back of it is that, like, one of the things in non-league that's quite contentious is that clubs don't tend to hang on to players for overly long. So that when teams have had a really successful season, it's really important to those players, like that unit has all been successful together and they get their rewards getting the promotion. Like, you don't get loads of promotions in a career unless you are an incredible player that's a journeyman and can carry every single team to promotion each year. So, like, in your squad, do you think the sort of older, more experienced guys are sort of feeling it harder because there's less years where you're going to get that experience potentially as a promotion than the younger guys? They're out there and have got years ahead of themselves to really make their mark on football and keep doing it.
Yeah, a little bit. I've played one game in the Championship. That was my debut, 12, 14 years ago, whenever it was. So there's a few of us who've never played and are desperate to kind of get there. So for us, this might be our best ever opportunity that we're ever going to have to do. So for that to be taken away from us would be heartbreaking. But then again, when you have the points per game and someone offhanded it to you, then 100% you're going to snap their hands off it. You deserve, which is another story. But yeah, I think so. I think I think the older you get, the more you realise about how difficult it is to stay in the game, to keep playing the games. And there's always someone younger and fitter and quicker than you. It's difficult to kind of make sure you're on it the whole time. So I think if you're one of the younger boys, I think you might be a bit naive to think that it's fine. I'm in football. I'm going to be in it for years and years and years. But the reality is, even if this wasn't happening, I still think a lot of these players won't be in football or won't be in the same level we're at now, just because of how the game's going and the filter down from the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's Joe's thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this. And leave us down in the comment section what you make of it. How would you decide the season? Do you agree with null and void? Do you think it should be continued, or do you think maybe points per game is the right way to go about it? As I said, let us know down in the comment section. Joe, if that's all right with you, I want to kind of just go and talk about your career in the game and where how you've got to this particular part in your journey, if that's all right.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's go back to the early days when you were at Cardiff. First of all, how did the Cardiff situation come about when you were younger? Did you kind of go for a trial with them, or how did that all begin?
I was just started off playing with my local team. I think I was about 9 when I signed at Cardiff.
9.
I think someone recommended me. They didn't even have a under 9s, under 10s, under 11s team, but I was playing with older boys from an early age and just stayed there. Just kept getting contracts. Eventually got offered just went full time after school. After left school at 16, went full time as a YTS contract and worked hard to kind of get to the first team. And I remember those years, even when you're YTS, just to try and get into the first, just to try and train with the first team was a massive achievement, and let alone think about ever playing a game for the first team. But fortunately, in the end of my 3rd year, I managed to make my debut, which was a dream come true. I'm a Cardiff boy, a Cardiff fan, so that was dream come true for me.
So just that moment of when you did make your first team debut, actually, funny enough, it was against my team, Norwich City. What was that? What was that moment like, having gone through the academy and all of that? All of the steps up through the system that you had to make. Just describe it to me.
It was incredible. It was something that you kind of, that's what you're striving for, but you never think you're going to get there. It's a bit strange. I wasn't a player in my going all the way through was Joe Ledley, who managed to break into the first team at 17 and stayed in the first, until he left. And he had that pathway where he was straight in it, and I don't think he really had that time where he didn't see it coming, because he just went straight in. He was such a good player, he just slotted straight in. Whereas I was not, one of the so-called better players at that age. I was just one of the ones who continued to do what I did and just work hard, and finally something just clicked and got my break. And for my dad's a Cardiff and all the family there, and it was surreal. I was actually doing A level. You during your YTS you have to do 3 years of A levels, or so I played on the Saturday against Norwich and went back to my school on the Monday, and my teacher was at the game as a fan, and I was just in this class now. It
must have been mental.
It was really weird. But that was a bit of a strange one, really.
So few people tend to be able to make it from the academies through to the first team of the same side, through like releasing and everything like that. It's very rare that it's a very small number of people. Did it feel special to know that you'd actually made the grade via that route?
Yeah, just because, luckily my said I had Joe there. No one a year below me, no one a year above me has had a career in the game. So look back, I think I'm still playing and in the game now is pretty special. I never kind of thought about it too much growing up. You just think that I don't know what you think. You're just in it. Whereas now you look back and you think, wow, the numbers are really stacked against you. And I was very fortunate to make that grade.
Definitely. The following season, after you kind of make your debut, you had a couple of loan spells away from the club. Was that something that was talked about kind of like during the summer, that they wanted you to go out and get first team football, or did you kind of want to stay on and after you made your debut keep being in and around the squad?
Yeah, for me, that was right at the end of the season, and I came back in the summer. probably a bit naively thinking, right, that's it. I'm going to be involved now in the first team. I'm going to be training with them. I'm going to be involved in the squads. And pre-season was a bit slow for me. I think we signed quite a few players. They were in the Champions. We signed quite a lot of players, and I found myself training with the reserve team. We had a squad there, and I wasn't involved much with the first team. And you kind of, it's weird. You get loads of people talk about getting knockbacks, and that was probably one for me. Thinking, or a reality check, thinking, you know what, I haven't made it yet. I played 10 minutes of professional football. I'm not anything yet, and I was desperate to carry on playing. So as soon as the loan moved to Accrington came out, I was I jumped at it, and it was an experience going up there. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah. And you joined Bristol Rovers on loan, I guess in the second part of the season it would be. That then led to a permanent move. Why did you make the permanent move? I suppose, again, kind of looking from the outside, why did you decide to make that move into a permanent one rather than, staying at your kind of like boyhood club? And, was there any options? Did Cardiff kind of say, we want you to stay? And just try and fight for a first team place? How did that come about?
It was strange. I mean, we got promoted at the end of that season with Bristol Rovers. We went up in the playoffs. Unfortunately, I played in the two semi-finals, and my loan ran out before the final, and they couldn't renew it. So I missed out on playing in the playoff final at Wembley. Which was a bit gutting. Yeah, it's horrible. I was actually on loan there when they got to the Johnson's Paint final that season. I was cut-tied as well, so I missed out on both of those occasions within a 3-month period, which was horrible. Because we played and it got to the summer, I still had 2 years left on my contract at Cardiff. And Bristol wanted to sign me, and I was playing, and the manager called me up and said, look, you're going to be my left back, you're going to be playing in League One. I thought, to have that guarantee of just up and down one division to go and play. And I spoke to the guys at Cardiff, and they weren't overly, pressing for me to stay or go. They just kind of said, it's up to you. You can, either way, we won't stepping you. So if they'd have asked me to stay and say, look, we think it's better for you to stay, I would have 100% stayed, I think. But because it sounded like they didn't really care too much, I was, happy to go. Looking back now, not that I regret anything, but I kind of wish I would have stayed, because I think I would have broken into the team. I fancy myself as kind of, playing more games, and then who knows what would have happened. But again, I couldn't go and leave the experience. I think once you start playing first team games and you see what winning means on the weekend, what it's like playing in front of a crowd, to go back and play a couple of reserve team games, you're like, this isn't for me. You want to kind of get that buzz back, and it was a good move, and played in that season. I think I played 50 odd games. It was, for me to start playing professional football, it was a great place for me.
Well, what was that like going into professional football and being hit with a 50-game season almost straight off the bat? Obviously, you had your loan spells, but 50-game season, that's big.
Yeah, and I kind of missed quite a bit of time. So it was the first time I properly played, week in, week out, and you just go along with it. You're young, you don't get injured, you don't need to warm up properly. You just go in and smash balls before training, and yeah, you don't, like now I have to do an hour's worth of prehab to make sure I can go out and kick a ball. Whereas back then I was, it's easy. You just go in and you go enjoy every minute of it. And I think it was 56 games. I think I played that season, and I think my first game was in August at the start of the season. My last game I went away with Wales, and that was on 2nd or 3rd of June. So it went right through into the summer. Really.
Definitely. I had a very similar conversation. We had Paul Hayes on the podcast last week, actually, and he said a very similar thing with his journey, that when he was at Norwich, he felt as if he had a couple of sub appearances towards the end of the season. He thought that he was finally doing and making the right tracks at his first club. But then it was the moment he started getting first team football, that was it for him. That was the seller. There wasn't any he, again, very similar to yourself, the parent club weren't overly active with trying to keep up with him. I mean, would your message be to anyone who's a kind of a youngster at the moment you get game time, go for it?
Yeah, I think so. We've got a couple of younger players, and I always say to them that whatever level it is, go and play games. I said, you sitting around here is doing nothing for you. You're not impressing the manager being in training. Yeah, you have to work hard every day. Ultimately, what you do in games, whether that's on loan, will be a bigger benefit to you going forward, whether that's at this club or another club. Because if you then get released and you've been at a Premier League club and you're 21 with 0 games, or you've been playing in the Championship and League One, you played 50 games, that's a better proposition for managers to then want to go and take you. So I'd 100% say go and play. Every situation is different, like mine with should I have stayed or should I have gone, but I may have stayed and dropped out the game completely. So, like I said, I don't have any regrets about that. I went and I played, and to be able to, like I said, still be in the game now at that same level.
Yeah. Is there an inherent fear within players in general? If you're, instead of like stepping down to play more, if you're playing regularly and then you want to step up, that's a question, especially from a non-league aspect, with players moving quite frequently. You have a good season, you can move up 2 tiers because someone picks you off. Like, does that come with any fear that all of a sudden you're not going to be playing and then you're back on the scrap heap for a bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's only been 1 or 2 times I've kind of moved in the same division rather than stepping up, but I've moved to bigger clubs in the same division, and even at that standard, I think I went from Mappington to Shrewsbury, and for me it was a step up in the facilities, the stadium, the club. I remember even though I just had a great season at Accrington, we've just finished pretty similar to Shrewsbury, but I think every time you move, you're desperate to impress, and it's difficult because if you find yourselves then not in the team, you're questioning yourself: are you good enough? Are you what are you doing wrong? Do you want to go back to playing every week at a lesser level, or do you stick with it and try and work through it? And it's ruthless, where you could be 6 months later, you find yourselves not playing out of it, and you can't even get back to the level that you got to move from. And it must be so mentally scarring for you of ever wanting to do that again, or even playing to any sort of level. So you can see why it does affect a lot of players, and the amount of players you do see where it doesn't quite work out for them, who then do get back to that level again, shows that they're the ones who are really mentally strong and
That's interesting.
Definitely. Let's go back to your time at Bristol Rovers. What was it like to play for them? I suppose like the first opportunity to get consistent run of games at a club. You were only there for a couple of seasons, weren't you? Talk to me about the time through Bristol Rovers. How much did you enjoy being there?
The first season was incredible. Obviously, my first full season, we got to the quarterfinal of the FA Cup that season, so there was a lot of media hype around us. We were doing really well. Personally, I was doing well. I was playing for Wales in the under-21s, and at the end of that season, was on the bench for a couple of games for the first team there. So for me personally, it was a great season. Then I came back for pre-season and I got injured. I got a bad knee injury in the last pre-season game. We were away in Sweden on tour, and it set me back a couple of months. And I couldn't quite get back into the team. Like I kept picking if I had an injury, and I think I was after 5 or 6. And at the end of the season, they just said, "You know what, your time's up here. You had a couple of injuries. It's not quite worked out," and I was gone. So I'd gone from being, a young player of the year the first year in the national squads to a year later, things them saying, "Right, thanks, but we don't want to renew you," which that's a little bit like what we were saying before, that you could be up here 1 minute and then they just want to get rid of you. They think they can get something better, and that's it. You're gone. You've got to fight for yourself, try and get another contract somewhere else.
Do you remember that conversation and what kind of emotions were going on at the time? Because I can imagine that obviously I've never had that happen to me because I haven't been in the game. But what is that moment like when you are told, no, sorry, injuries, season's not gone well, you're no longer required? How do you cope with that?
Actually, at the training ground, it was just before the season finished, so there was still 1 or 2 games left. And I remember Paul Trollope was the manager and Lenny Lawrence was the assistant. And I knew Lenny from Cardiff, and he kind of took me to Bristol as well. He helped out with that. And he was the one who told me. Paul Trollope didn't tell me. It was Lenny Lawrence came and spoke to me and told me. And I was I was probably young enough to feel a bit naive and to be like, well, you know what? Screw you, I'm going to go off and I'll be fine and whatever. But deep down, you're gutted. You know, it hurts. There's no one wants to get into a situation where someone doesn't want you or doesn't think you're good enough to play for them. Yeah. So it was a tricky time, and it wasn't a great experience for me, but something that you have to kind of learn from, and you just got to try and think, even though it did.
So during that summer, then, when you are, available to, for someone to sign, what kind of offer? I know obviously you moved to Oldham, but what kind of offers were on the table at the time? Was there anybody that was maybe in a higher division that wanted to take a bit of a punt on you, or were there a lot of clubs maybe lower down that thought you might be enticed to go to there?
From what I can remember, the only 2 offers I had were from Oldham and from Exeter.
Okay, yeah.
So I remember being on holiday with some friends, and I got a phone call from my agent saying, "Look, Oldham are interested. Here's the contract they want to offer you. Do you want to let me know?" And straight away, I've never been one for kind of going like, no, I'm going to hold out, just in case. I've always had that little bit of fear in me that, how hard it is to get contracts. So I was happy to accept it and just get it done and sorted, and know that the next 2 years for me was sorted, and I can kind of, not relax, but I can kind of settle down again and start playing football. And at the time, I thought it was a great move. Oldham that season were pushing for the playoffs in League One, and I knew 1 or 2 of the players there, so it was kind of a good fit, and it was exciting to move to another city, to Manchester. So it was exciting times, and I was quick to accept it. I just wanted to get it done. I don't even think we really negotiated the deal. It was kind of like, yeah, I'm happy with it. Let's just get it done and go for it. So, yeah, it all happened pretty quickly. I think from going on holiday, I didn't have a club, to coming back, I arranged to sign somewhere, and it was all done.
Wow. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Oh, whilst you're on holiday.
Yeah, that happened as well when I signed for Shrewsbury. The same thing happened. I was on holiday with friends, and that all got done while I was away as well. So maybe I should go away more often in the summer.
Treat yourself to a holiday, and you get a job with it when you come back.
Yeah.
Your time at Oldham, you weren't there for. Well, you were there for 2 years. How do you describe your time there? Because but just by kind of looking at the research I've done prior to you coming on, it doesn't look as if it was an overly successful time at Oldham.
No.
What kind of happened during those 2 years that you were there that just didn't quite work out?
I think I got injured again the last game of pre-season. I did something to my groin, and we had a new manager, Dave Penny, came in, and he signed quite a few players, and I got this little niggly injury that wouldn't go away, and I think because the team weren't doing so well, there was a lot of pressure on me to come back and train or play. And I think I was out for about 2 months. I trained once, and I got told to play a reserve game, and I was in agony. I couldn't, as stupid as it sounded, I couldn't kick a ball. It was killing me. And I managed to. I was traveling down to Leicester once a week for injections. I was, I was having scans, seeing specialists, and no one could kind of see what the problem was. Sorry. And I ended up getting into the team, played 10, 15 games, and the manager, it's just, you just don't click with the manager. Right. Some managers, they're on certain players, and I just felt like I was getting kind of scapegoat. I was a scapegoat a lot. And,
right.
and then it came to a head where I was in so much pain I couldn't play. I couldn't sleep at night. I was in a lot of pain. I ended up having 2 operations at the end of that season to try and sort it out. So that ruined that kind of first season. I came back to pre-season. The manager left. Paul Dickoff came in. Straight away was like, right, I know you've been injured. Like clean slate from everyone. And I think I was doing well in pre-season. I was getting back to fitness. Week before the season started, he pulls 5 of us in and says, right. No, sorry, it was right. Sorry, at the start of pre-season, Paul. I know it's pre-season, you need to get fit, but U5 is because you find the club. You can still be here, but you're not going to play. You'll still be involved in training and things like that, but financially, we need to cut the budget. And U5, we've picked out that we want you to leave. So that was a bit of a shock straight away for a new manager to come in and I was still wasn't 100% fit. So it got to the end of pre-season and they went, right, you boys, you need to kind of train over there with a coach. You're not involved in the first team. And I was still trying to get back fit. I needed to play reserve games. So we were allowed to play reserve games. And I ended up, we got told, that's it, you're not going to play for the club again, basically. The chief exec was saying it, you need to leave. It was difficult for me because I was coming back from a long injury and needed to get fit. A couple of the boys started to leave, but I was still there, and I ended up doing really well in the reserve games. We played Man United one game, and it was a big thing because Rio was making his return. So we played. I can't think who they had 9 or 10 first team players playing. I scored bar from free kick or something. It was for a reserve team game where there's normally 50 people. It was like 2,000 game. Alex Ferguson was there, was watching Rio Ferdinand, so it was pretty cool. And I ended up getting back involved, and he was like, "Look, I want you involved. You should be playing." And then I started being on the bench. I came on one game, and then I'd go and see him and be like, "Look, I should be playing." Yeah, I think, and he'd be like, "Look, I want to play you, but I can't." And then I had a decent relationship with the chairman, so I go to the chairman and say, "Look, I've been told that you're stopping me from playing." And he was going, "No, it's the manager's decision. It's all to do with the manager." So I was getting false information from both sides, and it was just not a nice environment for me to be in. And in the end, I was that desperate to go. I left. I went on loan to Accrington. They knew me from my time, obviously, before. John Coleman, Jimmy Bow was still there. Played and started enjoying it again. Was enjoying playing football, and it got to the end of the January transfer window on the last day, and I was just going to go and sign there on loan to the end of the season. And my agent got a phone call from the chief exec at Oldham and just said, and the chief exec went, "Look, he is signing. We're cancelling his contract. He's accepting these terms, and you're signing for Accrington permanently." And we were like, "Well, wait, I haven't spoke to Joe or whatever is going on."
Yeah.
And he went, "You tell Joe if he doesn't sign, he'll come back and rot in the reserves." So,
oh, goodness me.
So for me, again, just wanted to end the situation. I just accepted it and was like, right, just get me out of there. I'm happy just to get out. Signed a contract at Accrington to the end of the season. Didn't ask for anything. Looking back now, I wish I'd have asked for everything that I was owed from them, and kind of kicked up a fuss and been like, right, if you want me to leave, you're gonna have to pay me to leave. But
emotionally, I know I spoke mentally about what it's like at the moment. Emotionally, what's it like being told that you're just not wanted, like in your profession as such? Like that's what you've trained all your life for, and you get to that point, and then they're saying, "No, not for us. You can either rot in the reserves or basically not play at all."
Yeah, that's it. And you speak to every footballer in the world, and they'll all think they're the best thing. They should be playing in the Premier League. They're good enough to be here, there, and everywhere. So they've all got egos, and none of them will ever think, "Oh, I'm not good enough to be there." Of course, the older you get, you realise what kind of level you kind of should be at and where you're at and things. But I thought I should be playing there, let alone being ostracised out of the place. So it was. I was angry towards them, and luckily I went to Accrington and we had a successful season. We lost in the playoffs, unfortunately, but I was happy to cut time. Was involved and yeah, that wasn't 18 months ahead of my career for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had, again, going back to the Paul Hayes conversation I had with him, it's remarkable to hear a very similar tale between yourself and Paul. He had exactly the same thing. He was told you're not wanted, you're in the reserves, and he said to me that he turned around to the PFA and wanted some sort of help and assistance. Did you ever kind of reach out to anybody like that at the time, or was it just things were moving so fast you didn't really think about maybe reaching out to somebody like that, or was it just a get on the phone to the agent, look, get me out of here as quick as you can, I need help?
Yeah, it was because it was on deadline day, and I remember I was at Accrington, I was at the stadium ready to sign. So there's deadlines of you've got to get it before certain times to play the next day. So I was like, right, just get it. Whatever happens, I just want to get it done so I could play the next day. We were doing well, and I just wanted to roll with it. So I didn't really have time to kind of think, and the fact that I was going to sign on loan for the rest of the season anyway, kind of, it was easy enough for me to do. If it was a different club or if there was something else going on, I would have had a lot more time to kind of think and process it all. But like I said, I wish I'd have acted a little bit up with him. I know Hazy very well, and I know he's acted up a lot of times in his career and managed to get some good payouts and things like that. But
I did get that vibe, yes.
He told some funny stories like on that podcast of the way he felt though sometimes after he'd been told that maybe that club wasn't for him, and and when he'd been forced out. And I think it's when you start hearing it like again from yourself, you really do get that impression of how hard that can be to take, like, and how emotionally draining, and like
that's the thing. We think about this from a fan's perspective, don't we? We don't get to know all the ins and outs of what happens with a player. You just think, oh well, why is that player not playing?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like you always then pinpoint the blame on the player, don't you? Yeah. It could possibly be the club's fault, or that the club are not doing anything wrong. It must be the player.
Well, every club there's 10 players who don't play on the Saturday. Every club at every level, so they're all going through. Some are on the bench, some are getting involved, some are not on the bench, and very rarely are involved. And if you ask my wife now, we were together then, and she probably said it was the worst I've been, just because it does affect you. It affects every part of your life, and it's difficult to kind of separate it. You're coming home. I live with a good friend of mine, Dean Furman, who was the captain at the time. So he was playing. He was the golden child of the club. So he'd come in adulated every week, and I'd see him playing, and I'd see him the other side of it. Whereas I was, really down, playing these reserve games during the week, which you don't want to do as a player. You want to be playing on the Saturday and with the big crowds and things like that. So it was a really, really tough time. I didn't enjoy it. Looking back now, I've suffered quite a bit with it. But I was fortunate that whenever I had that bad spell at Bristol, I signed for a club straight away, and the same at Oldham, where as soon as I got told I wasn't wanted, there was a club there for me. So I was pretty lucky that I wasn't in the place where I couldn't get a club, or the other 5 players who got told there, I think, were in the game for another year or two, and then that was it. They've all disappeared out. So I know how tough that could have been. If that, I was fortunate that Accrington manager and assistant manager knew about me and were happy with me from previous loan, that they were willing to take me, and I've got to thank them for that.
How was Dean able to support you during that time as well? With him, like you say, being the sort of golden boy of the team as well, was he able to sort of help you along, even though it was a difficult period for yourself?
Yeah, it was strange, really strange, because we'd obviously travel into training together, and then he'd go off with the first team, and I'd be with the reserves, and it was
I'll see you in a couple of hours, mate.
Yeah, it was really strange, and obviously he's my mate, so he's going to be like, you should be playing. I think you should be playing. I think this is going on. Yeah. This is going on. So it was really difficult, but now me and Dean. So it was a really strange situation, but you kind of, I didn't want to then make him feel down about it, so I kind of kept a lot of it in. And I've always been that kind of character to be like, oh, it's fine, I'm all right, like I can deal with it, I'll joke about it, but deep down, you know, it's not a nice place to be. And there's been certain things, even when things are going right on the pitch, sometimes you have doubts about yourself that no one would ever think about thinking that there's anything wrong, but just because of, you know, games are going well, you're winning matches. But if you're having those doubts about your own game and whether or not you deserve to be there and things like that, then you can go through some really difficult times in football.
Definitely. Your move to Shrewsbury then comes about. The Accrington was the first time, beg your pardon, the Bristol Rovers, you've been down into League Two. Moving to Shrewsbury was, I believe you described it at the time as a place you wanted to be. What made you want to join Shrewsbury? What kind of clubs were interested at the time, and why did you decide to go there?
At the time, Shrewsbury were a huge club in League Two. They lost in the playoffs. We lost in the playoffs at Accrington, and Accrington wanted to keep me, but for me, it was, you know, you get vibes at every level. There's big clubs in each division. You know, in our league now, you've got your Sunderland, your Ipswich, your Portsmouth, and things like that. Whereas in League Two, there'll still be big clubs, and you kind of want to play for those big clubs in that league and have that arrogance about you. And Shrewsbury was one of them. I was speaking to Gillingham at the time as well, and I can't remember if they got promoted that season or not. I can't remember, but Shrewsbury was the best offer, I think. As soon as they were involved, I said to my agent, I want to get that one done. I really want to go down there. So I went down there, had a look, saw the new stadium, the training facilities, and I just got I wanted to, you could tell it was that the league this year. It wasn't like, let's see what can happen or things like that. It was like, right, we want to be the big team, want to win the league. And I was like, right, I want to be a part of this. And again, when I was on holiday, got it all sorted. And as soon as I was back, went up, signed, and that was it. Moved to Shrewsbury, which is a lovely, lovely place. Was
the factor of the fact they was slightly closer to home in Cardiff, was that a big pull at the time as well, or does that kind of thing not really come into consideration when you are in the game, so to speak?
Not at that age, it didn't come into consideration. Later on, like now, if that was to happen, then logistically, I'd have to look at clubs specifically and things like that. But at the time, no, I was happy to move. It was slightly closer to home. It's not the closest to Cardiff, but it was it was fine. I was able to. My wife now, she was in Manchester at the time in uni, and my family were in Cardiff, so it was a good kind of in between balance of everything. Right. And I had no clue about Shrewsbury Town before that, but it's a beautiful town and some great people. And if anyone ever wants to visit that, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I say about the distance because we both live in Suffolk, so we're far away from everywhere. So when you look at that, like that seems like logistically, that's not too far away. It's only an hour and a half for the case, but yeah, I can imagine.
When Roy Keane signed as Ipswich manager, he famously went out and out all the while saying that Ipswich couldn't attract the prospects that he wanted because they were too far away.
It's
from anywhere, and I suppose it does make a difference. Like, he got some players in, but at one point when there was pressure on him, I think to get some signings in, it was simply a case of people didn't want to sign because they're too isolated. Yeah. And with London just down the road, effectively it's a far more attractive proposition to play for the pro clubs around London than it would be to come up into central Suffolk. And I suppose it's difficult because I look at Norwich and they've managed to get some superb signings in their time. In comparison,
even with that, Adam, when we were when we are in the Premier League, back when we had like Chris Hughton in charge, the amount of times that he would say he has difficulty attracting players because Norwich is just in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around Norfolk at all. You come here, you enjoy your time at Norwich, and then so the amount of players that stay here and grow, the families grow up here. But when you're a young player, there's nothing really other than the fact that they would be in a certain league that kind of entices you to Norwich. Do you know what I mean?
It's difficult though, because like you mentioned earlier about when you went to Oldham, you'd got the excitement of going near Manchester and stuff like that, which is a huge draw for anyone. I mean, like, we don't even have like a city in the middle of Suffolk, so like, do you know what I mean? So it can be difficult, and I can understand how that could make like a vast impact on how you could choose your destination if a couple of offers are on the table and you're not that worried about being too close to home. Like, there are some important factors there.
But I think even Man City have contemplated moving their training facilities down to London to attract more players. And if that's going on at that level, then
Wow.
it must go on at every level. And I get that the Premier League, the money that's involved, it's difficult to turn down contracts and offers and things like that. But at our level, a lot of players have families and wives work and things like that. So it's difficult. They don't want to kind of keep moving about, and they don't have that financial stability to be able to, move, buy a new house, So they kind of want to stay around a certain base and have that sorted wherever they are. That's why you kind of see a lot of players move to their local rivals and things like that. Especially in non-league, that happens a lot. They kind of move around similar places.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? One point I do want to talk about during your time at Shrewsbury, you were made captain for a few games at your time there. I want to just talk about that particular moment because you've kind of gone through this journey of, you've been bouncing, I'm not saying bouncing around, but you've gone from club to club. You've had that time where you've been told you're not wanted, you're on the transfer list, you've been released, etc., etc. To then have that moment where you've been given that responsibility of a football club. Do you remember that conversation of when it was taking place to say that you're going to be the captain for today? And what talk me through that moment and what it meant to you at the time?
It's a bit strange because at the start of that season, I wasn't in the team for the first 10 games, and the manager pulled me and said, maybe look to go out on loan, get some games. And then said about he said you're out of contract at the end of the season, but he didn't realise that I still had another year on top of that. So I said, I've still got another year next year. And he's like, oh, okay. So next thing you know, I'm back in the team.
Right, okay.
So I'm back playing again, whether that had an effect on it. And I stayed in the team. We did well. We stayed up, and I think last three games, I think he kind of started playing the players that were going to be there next season and not the ones that he wanted to get rid of. And the captain was one of them. So he just pulled me and said, look, I want to lead the boys out. It was just in the changing room before the game. He was like, look, here's the armband. And it wasn't like a big thing, like, I'm going to have a talk to you and it was kind of just one of those things where he just went, there you go.
So and the funny thing is, like dragging you into the office a day beforehand and this is going to happen and this is what I want you to do. Literally just beforehand, here's the armband, go out.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. And of course, we knew the team beforehand, so
yeah, you
kind of have an inkling, right? Who could it be? If you start to think about it, a few of you think that you're in with a chance, and yeah, he just gave it to me. And I was saying the funny thing about that game was that the referee was Howard Webb. He'd made a huge mistake in the Premier League the week before, so they made him referee our game. So I've got a load of pictures of me walking out of Colchester with Howard Webb next to me, and I was in awe of him being the referee. It was a bit strange.
Wow. So being a captain on the pitch nowadays, because it's often referred to every time you listen to pundits on TV, there are no leaders, there are no captains in the team. How much of a status does the captaincy hold within a dressing room in today's day and age? Is it still really important, or are there natural leaders on the pitch who aren't the captain that step up anyway?
I think it's important. We've got at Wycombe, there's a group of us who the gaffers called the generals who kind of run the changing room. They're like the in-between. There's 5 of us, I think, and we've got the captain, Matt Bloomfield, me, Bayo Akinfenwa, Darius Charles and Dominic Gape. And we're the ones who lead and talk and things like that. We all pretty much play most games, so we're always pretty much on the pitch together. And around the changing rooms, around the training ground, and the dressing room, that we're the ones that make sure everyone's kept in check and look after the fines, make sure discipline's right, and make sure that no one kind of steps out of line. And it works really well at Wycombe that we're there not just to be disciplinarians, but we're there for the boys if they want to chat about things, if they're having problems, or if they're looking for advice on things. So I still think it's there's a huge place for it, especially at our club. It works really well in it, and the gaffer and Richard Dobson are huge on creating a culture where everyone can be open and honest, and there's no egos and things like that. And I think having us generals there to kind of look after that and make it easy for the boys to kind of, if they've got an issue, to come and speak to us or come and speak to the gaffer, and there's no problem with that, and there's no bitching going on, there's no one going off in little groups and things like that. So it works really well at our place.
Excuse the real Billy basic follow-up question, but how much does that mean to you to actually be a part of that? Because that's pretty special. The things that you've mentioned there that you're then responsible for, that shows what you've earned within a squad. How does that reflect on your importance within the team and how you feel about the club?
Oh, it's huge. It's like playing on the Saturday. If you get picked to play, you're buzzing. If you get picked to be in this group where the manager and the assistant manager trust you to kind of look after what they've created, of course, it's a huge boost, and I'm proud of that. And I've always kind of been professional. I've always kind of looked after myself and not really stepped out of line anywhere. So, I feel like in that environment that I'm trusted and I'm trustworthy, and I enjoy it. I enjoy, whenever a player comes up to me and asks me for advice, whether that's to do with football or buying a house or the missus pregnant, things like that, and they come and ask me, what do I think? I enjoy the fact that they've come to me and asked me, and it's, I enjoy that kind of side to it as well. And the opportunities when Blooms doesn't play and I'm leading the boys out again, it's a really proud moment that I'm standing there thinking, I've got to be the guy that the gaffer trusts today to kind of, be him on the pitch type thing as well. And it does. I think it gives you an extra couple of percent when you're playing to be like, right, I've got to make sure today that my performance levels are that high and my standards are that high that everyone has to follow me. And I don't ever want to be carried by anyone else if you're the captain.
Definitely. Let's move on to your time at Wycombe. I'm fascinated to find out more. First of all, when you signed, you were signed by Gareth Ainsworth, weren't you? Do you remember the conversation when you were, when you had that chat with the club? What was that first conversation with him like?
Again, I wasn't at home. I was at T20 games, watching Glamorgan playing at T20 in Cardiff.
Really?
Had a phone call, and it's strange. We got relegated from League One, but I got Player of the Season, so I was really baffled that I got released. Really strange time, and I was speaking to. That was the summer I'd probably spoken to more clubs than anyone else, and I was probably expecting more higher profile clubs and higher division clubs to come in for me, but I think there was only one. I think Crawley at the time in League One were the only team who offered me a deal, and I wanted to move towards London. I've got family there. My wife had moved there for work and stuff, and I was like, right, I want to kind of move now to a place where I want to settle down, and that was part of it as well. So with the Wycombe thing came up, and I had to take a drop in wages to sign there. At the time, I wasn't career-wise. I was thinking, is this the right thing to do? They just survived last year of the season in League Two. They weren't a club that were going, right, we're going to get promoted or anything like that. But I enjoyed speaking to the gaffer, and I enjoyed speaking to Dobbo, the assistant. And I knew the gaffer knew me from Cardiff because when I was in the YTS, I think for the first year he was there as a player. So we kind of had that little connection. And it was one of the best decisions I've made in football, just because for me to play for him for so long, I've loved every minute. I know players have to say that they're there with the manager, but genuinely the atmosphere around the club, the culture, everything around it is so good at Wycombe that we get a lot of young players coming in from higher division clubs who go on and play in the Championship, but loads seem to come back and play for us. They love playing for the gaffer. He makes it so simple that and just makes it enjoyable. There's never too many highs or lows. You know what days you're getting off. He doesn't go, right, you've lost 5-0 on Saturday, you're in tomorrow. There's none of that. He'll be the first one in on a Monday morning and screaming, yelling, playing his rock and roll music. And he's so infectious that you can't help then go, all right, if the gaffer's acting like that, what have I got to be down about? Do you know what I mean? He's always like, we've got humility, we're humble. Every day it's like, what more do you want? You're playing football with your mates. Like, how can you not love this? Win, lose or draw, how can you not love it? So he's had a huge impact on me.
With that sort of personality, what's he like in the change room when he's setting the team up before a game? Is it still that same sort of attitude and everything, or does he go into a very serious, focused mode for that sort of 10 minutes when that setup is needed?
No, he's very, very serious serious and focused when he needs to be. Especially, on a Thursday and Friday, we do a lot of tactical stuff, and throughout the week, even if there's if the standards aren't high, then he'd come down on us. But he's also there to be like, there's no pressure, but he just wants everyone to work hard, have their standards high, and give everything. That's all he asks for. He said, if you even 10 games to go when we've been playing this season, he's never once gone, I want you to win, I need you to win. He's like, if the performance is what I've asked for, I don't care what happens. There's never any pressure to win. Which kind of eases you up a little bit to be like, right, if I just play my game, he's happy with me. And as a player, all you want to win games, but if you're in the team because you're doing what the gaffer's asking, then that's incredible too. So before a game, he's serious as ever. He talks. Like I said, after a game, I reckon there's been 2 or 3 times in the 6 years I've been there where he's absolutely let loose after a game. But it doesn't happen very often, that's for sure.
You just remember it when it does.
Yeah.
I mean, again, going back to the Paul Hayes conversation I had with him, he spoke about when he signed the honesty in the project that was being done at Wycombe. There was no sort of grand aspiration, or not. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't like we are going for promotion. This is what's going to happen. It was a very let's just be honest. This is what the club is going to do. This is the plan over the next 5 years. Did you have a very similar conversation when you signed as well?
Yeah, well, me and Hazy signed at the same time.
Right, yeah.
So they had this. They set out. They got a new guy, like a new chief exec or whatever he was, and he said, right, this is our 5-year plan to get into League One and be sustainable. The club off the pitch was in a really bad situation. He came in, sorted it all out, and we've always been that team who have punched above our weight. We've never had the biggest budget, and he's even this season, the budget in bottom 5 or 6, whatever it may be for the league, and they're not one to be like, oh, we don't want to overspend. Why? We want the club to be here. We want sustainability.
Yeah,
they've shown that with the gaffer keeping him there for so long, and the fact that the gaffer wanted to stay after being linked to Sunderland and Millwall and Barnsley and whoever else shows that the club wants to be run properly and wants to be there for the long run. And you see so many scare stories of teams like Bury and Bolton that there's been so much money falsely pumped in that it's nowhere to be seen. It's just in the air. It's nothing. So for the club, they'll never want to overspend. They're very cautious about that. And like you said, they're very honest. They don't try and promise you anything. They don't. I think the season we went up was the first season where they said, we want to achieve something this season, and we managed to do it. Since then, it was only up until Christmas time when we're top of League One that we had a meeting and said, do you think we should try and now push for promotion?
Really?
Before that, it was hit our points target of last season and try and improve on that. There was nothing else, absolutely nothing else. It was only, probably after Christmas that we probably came out to the press and were like, right, you know what, we're in this position, we deserve to be here. Let's see where we can go with it.
Yeah. So just talk. Go on, Adam.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just mentioned a points target there. Like, I think that might be something that's interesting for the listeners to understand. Like, when you set a season up, is it simply like by the end of the season, this is the sort of number of points we expect you to have, not league position, or is it more incremental than that in terms of your performance? They expect you to get so far by 2 months in, 4 months in. Like, how does that look?
A mixture of everything, really. At the first season I was there, it was 55 points, and we ended up getting 84 and losing in the playoff final. So we were top of the league in January, and we're on 52 points, and we were saying all we want is 55 points. Get to 55, and we'll reassess.
Yeah,
we did that. We had to reassess. The next season, it was just improve on last year, improve on last. So there's never any pressure. But we then have in-house meetings of we do blocks of 9 games of how many points we get from those games, and where that mars up then with where you are in the league. And if you average out over the league the 5 blocks in the same space, then that's where you'll kind of end up finishing. And so we do that. Sometimes we ask for, we don't ever look at the 9 block and go, right, we want X amount of points, but we just at the end of it we'll reassess it. So like I said, there's never any pressure on picking up so many points. They're really performance based, and we actually do a thing where they do it in a lot of other businesses. Really, the KPIs, the key performance index, where
Yep.
we get bonuses as a group, as a collective on performance. So we might lose 1-0, which means you don't get your win bonus and things like that, which is the normal thing. But if we've ticked off all the things that we're expected to do, have so many shots on target, stop the opposition having so many shots, not concede from set pieces, there's all these stipulations, then you can earn money towards a bonus for the boys, because we're doing the right things. And they say if you do all those things over the season, then you're going to be more successful. So they break it down like that, which I'm surprised that's not happened before, really, but it makes a lot of sense.
That's fascinating to hear, actually. It's purely from what we, myself and Adam, we are avid Football Manager players, and you just think of the standard goal and assist bonus, clean sheet bonus. But when you actually think about it and break it down, it does make quite a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To do that, that's interesting.
I mean, you could dominate a team, batter them, play brilliant football, do everything right. Someone scores a deflected goal from 30 yards, and you lose the game 1-0. Yeah. You've done everything right. Like, they're saying, why should you be worse off because of that? They want you to be rewarded for, doing everything we've asked of them.
Definitely. Let's talk about this season. How, for a squad, obviously you've been in League One before, you know the division well, but for the squad, you've handled yourselves very well. How do you think, how has the club adjusted to being in League One this particular season? Do you think it's gone better than you could have ever thought?
100%, yeah. After last season, we wanted to survive. We managed to do that. This season, in fact, in the summer, the gaffer was having serious conversations with people about cutting the budget because, some funding went and the budget was going to have to be slashed. And it was only because we've got new investors from America, the Kuwigs, who have come in this season and kind of backed us a little bit, that we're able to sign a couple of players. And you start seeing one or two players come through the door, and you start thinking, all right, you know what, we can be all right at this level. Never did anyone think that we were going to, be top of the league at Christmas or anything like that. But we started signing players who, had championship experience or did well in League One. So it was a bit of an exciting time at the start. And at the start of the season, you just kind of, there's no position. So you start winning a couple of games at the start of the season, then you kind of start rolling with it. And after 10 games, you kind of look at the where you are in the league table, and then other teams start to kind of look at you differently, and they don't look at Wycombe to be in this easy game. We're getting 3 points now. They're looking at Wycombe going, wow, if we can get a point off these, it's a great result. And I think you just kind of get bigger and stronger. You get a little bit of arrogance about you, and it just grows, and you kind of run with it. And for the first half of the season, we were unbelievable. We were beating everyone. I think we lost one game out of the first 21 games of the season. And it was ridiculous. Then all of a sudden, we had a bit of a bad spell over Christmas. We played, I think, 5 of the top 6 in a row, and lost 4 out of them. I think Ipswich game was the game we managed to finally get another point back. So thanks to you guys.
That's not a shock. That's not a shock.
Yeah, it really is.
We won't talk about the game at Portman Road, that's for sure. But
Ipswich have not had a good year. I mean, as an Ipswich fan, null and void would be a good outcome for Ipswich, to be honest.
Definitely praying for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Marcus Evans is probably trying to vote for it so we can start again.
I'm sure there's a lot of chairmen out there who are desperate for it to be null and void, so that they don't have to play players extra. They don't have to worry about bringing their players out of furlough and things like that. So you can see why they'd want that, because I'm not sure where are they at the minute, 9th or 10th.
Yeah, around there. I mean, one of the big things for me is that Paul Lambert got a big contract around Christmas time. Yeah. He signed a 5-year deal, and so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a break clause in that. So
yeah, that seemed really. That happened the week that we played them at our place.
Yeah, it did.
Game on TV, and it was a really strange. Because obviously Matt Bloomfield's an Ipswich boy, still lives in that area, so he knows about the stuff. And I think he was doing some coaching with the kids there as well, so he knew what was going on. And I think he was really surprised that they'd given it to him. Of course, if you're him, you're going to take it. But it was a time when they didn't really need to kind of offer him that contract and such.
I think though, like in all things in football, like things are negotiated and then not spoken about.
Yeah.
And like, I know, slightly off topic from where we were, but I think from the news that I got and from what I had filtered through is that was negotiated and agreed to 6 weeks before it was leaked to the press that it was probably going to go ahead, and then a week later it was confirmed. Yeah. So, like, if you think that that's the sort of time spans that we're dealing with some of those contracts, I think back then Ipswich were actually they'd started okay.
Yeah, they were. There was them and us that were for a long periods that were up there. So just the timing was really bad. I think they'd lost 3 or 4 in a row and things like that. So
yeah, definitely. I want to kind of just ask you very briefly, move on to some Twitter questions and just kind of get what you're up to, and what your kind of future plans are, etc. We spoke about this on the last podcast, didn't we, Adam? With the fact that Colchester announced recently that they were releasing a few players from their contracts. From a player's perspective, how unnerving is this time? And what kind of reassurances have you had from the club? Maybe, for example, with your contract, I don't know your situation and how long you've got left to go on your deal, but from a player's perspective, is that kind of thing talked about? Have you guys spoken about that?
Yeah, definitely. And also because we've got Blooms who's in this PFA meetings, there's a lot of talk about players who are out of contract in the summer and if it was going to carry on, what would happen and things like that. So, my contract's actually up in the summer, so it's really a nerving time. And but I've had talks with the club about maybe doing something, but again, the situation that's going on, you just don't know at the minute. So. And no one's going to be signing players yet until they know what the situation is. The Colchester one for me was a bit strange. That I don't know why they needed to do that now. It doesn't change anything for them as a club or the players by releasing them now. Whether or not they wanted to do that anyway, and they're using this as a bit of an excuse to kind of,
the players that they actually released are some of their star players. That's the confusing part about it. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, they would have been the higher earners in the squad, James. The ones that
I think that's probably a part of it as well. Yeah,
but it's interesting one. I can imagine from your perspective. I have the club. You don't have to kind of go into too much detail, but have they just said let's just wait and see how things kind of progress before we kind of kickstart those conversations again, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they spoke to me a couple of months ago and said, look, or the gaffer did and said, look, we want you here for the foreseeable. So, and that was kind of it. I'm not one to kind of press and be like, what's going on? Is there a contract? Is this not? I probably should be. I've never really been like that. So we'll have to wait and see. It's a really strange time. And like I said, no one can kind of predict anything. I feel like I've had a good enough season. If Wycombe weren't to offer me a contract, then I'd be able to get a contract somewhere else. But then the older you get, the harder it gets to kind of get the contract you want in a place you want. Like I said before, I don't really want to move away from where I am at the minute. And it's unnerving, but that's just the football life at the minute. And I can't control anything else apart from staying fit and being ready that if we do go back and play, I'm ready. And if we don't, and I'm there for the club if they want me.
Yeah,
it's that sort of standard conversation as well, isn't it? As you get more senior, it's trying to make sure you obtain a multi-year deal for your own security in terms of being able to stay settled as well. And I think that's probably going to be a lot of people's worry if they are being released. Is with football the way it is, are we going to go the way of single-year contracts perhaps and a lot less security and
And depending on when the season restarts again, next season, I mean, if the season's not restart until November and players are out of contract in June, then, they've got 3 months, 4 months without getting paid. And what happens then? So, and players at our level, there's very few that are able to kind of survive for long periods without any income. So, it's really a nerving time, especially for our levels.
It's a thing, it's a generalisation of football that they've got loads of money to spend and whatever, but you live to your means, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You know, everyone would struggle if they had that amount of months. I mean, I know obviously myself, even Adam included, if we had 3 or 4 months taken away from us, you would struggle. There's, you know, you can't get away from that.
I'd struggle with 1 week taken away from me.
Yeah, with your spending, Adam, that doesn't really surprise me.
But no, like I think one of the other things is as well. It's like there's that generalization that footballers earn really well and stuff, and there's a massive gulf in what is funded at the top levels and top leagues of all sport, and as that filters down and wage budgets are adjusted accordingly. But like you say, James, everyone lives to their means, and players at lower league levels are not going to have tons and tons of money sitting about just to pay off their mortgage and everyone else's around them and everything else. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has got bills to pay, and that's one of those generalisations which I don't like, and that's why I think a lot of footballers are getting it in the neck at the moment with what's going on. And I think it's a bit undeserved, like, because there isn't just endless supplies of money in people's pockets.
They are being used as a scapegoat. You know, let's not kid ourselves on that. I'm not going to get into that because I could be here all day talking about politics at the moment. But we'll move on. You mentioned when we started off the podcast that you're looking at and you're doing other things now for when your time, you know, when you decide that you don't want to play anymore. What are they involving? Are you looking into coaching, or, you know, is managing potentially something you want to do? What's your mindset at the moment for when your career does come to an end?
I've never really been one for the coaching. I've not taken my badges or anything like that. It doesn't really interest me too much. The management stuff has never really, again, interested me, apart from getting older and speaking to the gaffer more and seeing a lot more that what goes on. It does interest me. But what I'm studying at the minute is to be a financial advisor. So I've a bit completely different from what
brilliant,
what football. But so I'm doing it. I've got exams. I've passed a couple of exams. I've still got a couple more to go. So
it's interesting. That's the route you're choosing to go. I hear of a lot of the footballers that are in retirement, that's what they choose to
I've always been interested in numbers. I like maths and stuff as a kid, and I've got a friend of mine who does it, and he works with a lot of footballers actually. So I think that's kind of my way to stay in the game, but kind of look after players in a different way, really. So I'm hoping that I can be fully qualified before I finish playing, and I can just kind of transition straight in and go from there. I've got a friend of mine who just says that as soon as you're ready to do it, there's a job here for you. So
incredible.
Yeah, if you ask my missus, she wants me to start now and just forget football and just have security for the next 50 years, but I can't let go quite yet.
Lacing up work boots instead of football boots.
I mean, I have to ask you this question before we go on to Twitter ones. This will be my final one. As myself and Adam are in non-league football, is that something you've ever, or you could see yourself going into, or do you kind of want to play at the highest level possible and then decide to call it a day? Because we get mixed opinions on here, don't we, Adam? About, you know, we've had certain guests on here who have never considered it, and when they've dropped into it, they've found it amazing, and some people have just gone, nah, it's not for me. You know, I want to play to the highest I can.
But then you get stupid quality players as well, don't you? That play non-league. It's nuts, really.
Well, I've always said play as hard as you can for as long as you can, and whatever happens. You know, if I'm 33 now, if I can carry on playing in League One until my legs allow me, then great. If I in this summer I can't get a contract and I have to drop down, then so be it. I'll do that, because first of all, you can still earn decent money in the National League, especially. There's a lot of clubs that throw a lot of money about. I'm not against it, but I'm not against dropping down. But yeah, of course, if I can play at this level and this standard, which I think I'm capable of doing for the next couple of years, then I'd much rather do that and then reassess later on. And like I said, I might be in a completely different headspace where I'm just want to get out of it. I'm done with it. But at the minute, you know, I'm excited as ever to get back playing. I miss the boys. I've missed training every day and playing matches. So while that hunger and desire to still play and train hard and work is there, I'll carry on playing.
Kick footballs for as long as possible before you start crunching numbers. Then really.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it, and if Stowmarket need a left back anytime soon, I know Adam will be straight on the phone to you. Don't you worry.
There you go. I'm there.
Right, let's get into your Twitter questions. We've had quite a few actually come through for you, so I'd love to hear some of the answers on this one. So we've got Ben Rotundo. He asked, well, he's actually sent in 2 questions. His first one: which player have you missed most from Wycombe Wanderers who has moved on, and why? So any player that's left the club and you've missed having them around the dressing room.
Oh, around the dressing room. Who would I say?
Or maybe someone that was good for your game, or
well, Hazy. Funny you should say about Hazy. There was a group of us, me and Hazy, Sam Wood, and Steve McGinn and Gary Thompson. We still got a group now that we're all there at the same time. They unfortunately left at the same time, and we socialised together. A couple of them came to my wedding last year, and things like that. And we still try and meet up when we can. So I'd say those boys.
Yeah. And his second question, I think we've already answered it. He's saying, how is he keeping fit and sharp during lockdown? What's his routine? I suppose the park runs, really, I guess would be your answer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just workouts at home, going for runs in the park, trying to take balls. I went down the other day. I sent a thing to the fitness coach of me, tied a bungee cord to a goalpost down there, and I was just doing runs against them and trying to anything that kind of just mix it up, make it different. Don't make the same runs and the same sessions all the time. Just keep your brain ticking over there.
Definitely. Chairboy Central asks, I'd be interested to know if he deliberately takes his penalties in a pattern, something which caught my eye when doing some analysis recently. And they've sent in a big...
Yeah,
Matt, you got more details on this one, didn't you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, they've analysed that Thomas Holy, Ipswich goalkeeper, is the only one that's managed to stop one for you. So I'll add that in just for banner, really. But no, I mean, he's gone into how you run up is always the same, no matter how you place the ball, which obviously makes it impossible for keepers to read because you're not changing things like that. But they almost in numerically order go into different areas of the goal, and he's just wondering if there's anything that goes in your head, any cycles that you run through, really, to make sure that your hit percentage is so high, because it's noted here that your penalties must clearly be a nightmare to read, and I can see why.
I've seen that report that he did. When the media guy at Wycombe sent it to me, he did a huge report on me, not just about penalties, just about the whole season. It was pretty impressive, actually. But no, the penalties, this is the God's honest truth. I don't know where I'm going to kick the ball until I'm set from kicking to the penalty. So I don't think about it until I'm literally, my legs going back, my legs cocked to strike the ball. That's when I think where I'm going to put it.
Is that because you're trying to read a goalkeeper rather than read your...
Yeah, you try and get little things off them. And I did it a few years ago where I was like, right, I'm going here, and I missed. And I was like, right, from now I'm not doing it. I'm just running up, and I run up in a certain way where I can go anywhere in the goal. And I kind of, it seems to, apart from the Ipswich last minute to go 7 points clear, apart from that one, it's been going well.
Yeah, I mean,
from my perspective, you're decent, don't worry.
With his stupid long arms.
Yeah, he's a big lad,
He's a very big guy, yeah.
We've got Ground Hopping Mick, who's been on the podcast recently. He's a good bloke. He said, have you tried to shoulder barge Akinfenwa in training? What a question.
No. There's no point. What's the point? You don't get, if he's out there, you don't go near him. You just, there's only one winner. It's like you going, would you ever have a race with Usain Bolt? No, because he's going to beat you. So if you're ever training against him, he actually doesn't like training against me because I don't let him feel me. I don't let him touch me, and doesn't really know where I am. I try and, come weird angles and try and nick the ball in front of him. But if you're going to get into a battle, and it's so funny that, I played with him now for 4 years, and the amount of centre halves that go, right, I'm going to be the big man today. I'm going to be the one who beats Akinfenwa for strength. No one's ever succeeded.
Well, what's it like having someone that is that strong on your team and that dependable. Like, no one's going to outmuscle him when, so that must be something that you can really pull on as a team.
Yeah, we've got a reputation of being quite a direct team, but when you've got someone who's as strength as him, as a big strength as him, then why not use him? If you've got the best header of the ball in the league, then why wouldn't you put Cross into the box, and why wouldn't you put Diaz onto his head? If we don't play to his strengths, then he's not, like, his game gets nullified. So, we want to use him as best we can, and we've got players around it who we've kind of adapted the style that we play a certain way to kind of get the most out of him, and he's produced so much over the years that why wouldn't you carry on doing that?
That's sort of where I was going to lead on to, really. It's like, because of how much stronger he clearly is than others in the league, have you adapted to make sure that's been permanently used? And it would appear so.
Yeah, of course.
So Peter asks, when have you been happiest in football? Would now be the happiest would you say you've been?
Yeah, I think so. I've had great seasons. I was in promotion team at Bristol and Shrewsbury, and those years, especially the Shrewsbury one, was incredible the whole year. But I just think for pure happiness, I think I'm in a place in my life now where I'm settled. I'm here with my wife. We've got a house together. We're in an area we want to kind of stay in, and everything, on the pitch is gone, according to plan the last few years. And I'm at a club where, like I said before, you kind of have a structure, and to work towards it. There's no up and down from the manager. You're never like on edge about how he's feeling or how he's going to treat you or what you're going to do today. So, and they look after all the players really well. If you need extra days off, you get them, and if you need a couple of days inside rather than being out on the pitch, you get them. And as long as you're there performing on the weekend, then that's all they want. And I like to think that I've done well for the club as well as them doing well for me.
If you start asking for extra days off, the younger guys must rip you for it at the training ground, don't they?
Do you know what? There's, like I said, that group before. There's a few of the boys who you don't see on the Monday. Full stop. You're lucky if you see him up until Thursday. Whereas me, I'm always the one who doesn't get the days, and some of the younger boys get days, and I don't get the days, and I'm always going to them. What have I got to do? And they were like, "What would you be doing?" I'd be like, "Well, I'd probably come in anyway." So they're like, "Well, there you go."
And final one I've got in comes from Rob. He says, when I was at a ground hopping day, I went and sat in with the Wycombe fans, and they were singing a song about you to do with hating the franchise of MK Dons. What is the song about? I'm curious about this as well, because I went to watch a game with a mate, and we heard this song about you hating the franchise, and I was like, why does he hate MK Dons? What's that about? Has anyone ever explained it to you? What's the backstory behind that? Do you know?
I've never come out and said anything. I think Wycombe and MK don't like each other, and there's a bit of hatred towards the two fans, and Wycombe fans call them the franchise, and that's just part of my song. So I'll go along with it. Yeah, right. It's I've got to back my guys, haven't I? And be Wycombe, and I've never come out and say I hate MK Dons or anything like that. It's a huge club, but yeah, I don't know why they put it in there or what right. the reason behind it was, but yeah, it's nice. It's a nice song because it's different. I've never really heard the song before, so yeah, it's a cool one to have.
Well, any followers that we gain from doing this episode will all unfollow us on Monday. We've got Team Bowditch on Monday, so we'll quickly lose whoever we gain.
There you go. Well, here's one for me and Dean Bowditch actually both scored in the same game. I wasn't full Wycombe. I was at Shrewsbury, and he was at MK Dons. Both scored, so that's one thing.
There you go.
He won't remember me, that's for sure.
No, I wanted to actually ask that question myself. Actually, it's weird that person sent that question in, because I remember being in amongst the Wycombe fans. I think it was away, possibly against Dagenham Redbridge. They are a mental lot. They are brilliant set of away fans. I mean, my final question: what is it like? How their support? Are they good? Are they a good set of fans to play for?
Yeah, I've been really lucky over my career to play for good sets of fans, and Wycombe fans are right up there. There's a guy behind the behind the goal with a drum every week, and it's non-stop. And
Mental.
I think because they realise the expectations aren't so high at Wycombe, that they're kind of happy with just us performing and giving something to shout about, and they're not expecting too much of us, and they know that we're always punching. I think they're happy with that. They're happy to kind of be that team who, we're fighters, and we don't care if people hate us and things like that. So, I go back to, we played Oxford. It was only the second game we lost this season. That's our local rivals, and I think we took 1,500 or so down to Oxford, and we lost, and we had a man they got sent off in early in the first half, and we lost the game, and they really battered us that day. But our fans never stopped the whole game. It was incredible. Even the Ipswich game, after what happened in the last minute with me, I was really low, really down, but they straight away sang my song right after the game finished, and that was a big thing for me to kind of think, like, how amazing is that I've just cost them one of the biggest victories we could have had in recent years against a team like Ipswich, and still singing my name. So that was an incredibly proud moment for me.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I really, really appreciate your time on the podcast tonight, Joe. Really, thank you so much for coming on. It's I don't know about you, Adam, but it's just been fascinating to get the insight of a professional footballer at the moment in such difficult times, and just to find out where you and the rest of the squad are at, and how you find things. It's been a really fascinating listen. When you agree?
Yeah, 100% agree. It's been good to like hear both sides of the coin from yourself, like the honesty of like the downs and the ups of football. And it certainly sounds like you've experienced both, really, like in different measure throughout your career. And it's so interesting to find out from people, honestly, what that can feel like and the impact it can have.
Yeah, definitely.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, and good luck with the if we ever do get the season kicked off. I hope, obviously from a Norwich fan's perspective, I hope you carry on your form and keep knocking them boys down the road, down a peg or two. That's fantastic stuff. I really appreciate it. But yeah, good luck for the rest of the season if it does happen. If not, hopefully your contract gets renewed and whatnot. And good luck for the rest of the studying on that course. I really hope that goes off well for you. And as I said, in a couple of years' time, if you are interested in non-league football, Adam will be coming for you, because the club he's connected to, they might be interested in signing you. You never know.
All right. Keep an eye out.
Thank you very much for coming on. If you have enjoyed the video, please make sure you hit the thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel as well. If you are listening to this through the various podcasting means, Adam, you know what I'm on about. 5-star reviews, and do they have to subscribe to podcasts? I never know. Yeah,
just subscribe, and you'll know when the next one drops. Yeah. When I remember to upload it, you'll get a little message.
That's it. But yeah, make sure you subscribe. As I said, 5-star review. If you're listening to us on YouTube, hit the thumbs up and leave a comment. As always, until next time on the channel, adios.